Today I relearned how to take the locking knob off of a SCHLAGE front door lock. This is the lock that's inside the knob, and on the other side it has that little thing there. And when you turn it, if you turn it one way, it will allow you to move the mechanism in and out. And if you turn it on this side the other way, it locks it. Now on this end it has the same kind of mechanism, but it uses a key to give it permission to unlock, and then the other direction lock it. And if you unlock it, move it slightly, then put it in lock position, you'll notice you can still rotate it while locked, but it goes click. Now that mechanism that actually keeps just the external doorknob from rotating is inside of the body of the mechanism inside the door. But the thing that gives the system permission to rotate the lock is only in here, and it's in a little core system. You can watch all sorts of videos on YouTube, but the one thing they don't tell you is how and why some of this works. Or not, we'll see now. It's so long ago I don't even remember a lot of details. I spent several days helping rekey a very large building with a bunch of locks that were brand new because all of them were all scratched up and damaged, and someone was just redoing their motel, hotel, no-tel. Now this is a SCHLAGE lock, it'll say it in the video title, and this is for usually the lower lock, not the deadbolt. Although there is a variation of this, I made one, that it had a deadbolt. Not advisable, but may be effective. But anyway, here we go. How do you remove the entire locking mechanism? Now, this is one of those where you don't have to take the door apart to get the locking mechanism out. That's why it's used. You rip off the doorknob with the locking mechanism and just replace the internal locking mechanism, which is very minimalist, or walk around with doorknobs with the locks ready to go and just take off the old one and put on the new ones. And it's the outward-facing or public-facing side of the lock. The inside-facing one, you might have seen in some places you've maybe even lived at, can be scuffed up and crap because all this is now let me make sure it's unlocked here. Excuse me. There. Is an actuator that runs the doorknob. That's all it's for. And a lock mechanism to put a couple of pins in place so it can't rotate. And again, if we unlock it, we can rotate this. If we turn the knob slightly on this side and then hit lock position, well, in this case, it doesn't work. Now, there are two positions for the lock on this side you already know about. You rotate it one way, and that causes it to unlock, and rotate it the other way, it locks it. But in those positions, when you've finished actuating it, the key is retained. When you put it into the middle position, you can, and it will fail, of course, you can remove the key. Okay. And you can make it to where you can flip the doorknob upside down if you want to. Currently it's made to where it has the jaggy side down if this is over towards my face. Now how this is removed is that on each side, on your left and right side as you're looking at it, there are little dimples. Now because it can be flipped upside down, only one of the dimples normally has the ability to disable and remove. Now you can press in any metal thing. They give you a cheap one, but it'll work with a paper clip. And you push on either side, and you look for, well, it's not moving. Well, yeah, it's because if you could just do this without the key in it, or without it being unlocked, yeah. But the thing is, the people who make these don't want to make it to where when you have the door unlocked because you're just sitting there, someone can't come along and really quickly with a pin pull off the knob and replace it with another knob so you can't unlock your door. It has to be that the key is in it in order to remove the mechanism. So what you do is you put it in, and it doesn't matter if it's in the locked or unlocked position. You put it in the locked position like that, that'll work. I prefer that because it makes everything very stable in here because now it has a hard time moving, the mechanism in here, or at least it should. Like I said, it only really locks out the ability of you on the outside rotating the knob. We can do it either position. Now, one of, but not both, of the knob, of the dimples will allow us to remove it. And it'll be the one where we put it in, and you might, well, just try either and slowly pull off the lock. And if it doesn't work on that one, only apply a little pressure. You can put your finger in it, but it will cut you if you do that too much. Apply pressure, and there. Now I've unlatched it. It just slightly moved. You have to be very careful. Don't yank on it because you'll throw it across the room. And we can pull off the entire mechanism. inside of this is the little metal catch in here that's for articulating, that's a fancy word for moving stuff, right in there, that little metal tab. And if I grab that with a pair of pliers, I can unlock, and I think I can grab it again and lock it again, and lock the mechanism, which means if I can bash the doorknob off by ripping it, using a dent puller or a special tool for it, if it'll overcome that latch, yeah, you could just, but the thing is, it's going to make a lot of noise. Everybody's going to know what's happening. And it's held in on the inside. We look down in there. I'm going to apply pressure to that little thing we pushed on with the metal pin, the diddle stick. I'm going to, well, I can just do it with my fingertips. It's a very lightweight spring-loaded item. When I press on it, you'll notice, well, if we get in close enough, there's a little U-shaped, fork-shaped thing, and you just see that it barely moves. The reason for that shape is that just makes it to where the outer doorknob shell lets go. That's all it's doing. And that just moves this out of the way. But it won't move if the lock is in there, and you'll notice the lock is an egg shape. If it's not in the right position, it's going to block it. So let's, I'm going to set this down, hopefully not lose everything, including my mind. There's a outer shell that's on it. Make sure this lines up cleanly. And it's notched at the top or on the side there. You can see a little tab. Barely see it. Sorry about that. There's a tab there. It keeps it from being in the bad alignment. And that tab only exists one place on the mechanism here. And if I take the key out, I have to get the key out of it. So I have to put it in the neutral position where I'm allowed to remove the key because it's a captive mechanism. We pull off the shell. That's the outer shell that has the real catch. Even though it was a round hole, you can see right there, it's actually a slot. Now, because of that, it's a mild steel spring-loaded thing that sticks in that keeps it in position. And unless you have the key in the lock and you rotate this egg-shaped piece a certain amount, it's going to block because the surface that it needs to push in on is that. If you have it in the neutral position, the points of the football or egg shape are pushing to where it can't get through. And that's how it works. The rest of this is just a lock mechanism. These are called cores. There's lots of different ones that are out on the market. So to put it back together again, now that I've totally dismantled it, and again, I can put it in right side up or upside down, but it'll usually be oriented up and down with either the jagged teeth to the top or the bottom. For the fun of it, I'm going to try to put it to where its teeth, it was down before, so I'll put it teeth up. You want to put the lock into the mechanism, get it centered, push it in as best you can. Then you want to take this and put it in the key, and put it in. Again, I'm choosing to use the locked position just because mechanically it'll line up with everything nicely. And you take the shell, remember those dimples have to be there, and it's keyed mechanically, pun intended. There's a little keyway. You have to line that up, so we put it in. That's why it doesn't rotate, you know, and get out of position so the hole won't line up. Then we take our lock mechanism again, and again, this is going to be this way. I'm going to see if I can do this right. Let's, one moment, please. Hold, please, technical difficulties. I'm going to try to make it to where when I rotate it, there. I'm going to deliberately turn it to where now it's teeth up. See if I can put it in that way. It might fail. I might be wrong. But on most of my that I worked on, it worked fine. Okay, let's get that way and do this to where it's pointing towards me. And it's got two slots instead of just one, so it should be able to be flipped one way or another. People have preferences. And let's see if I can get that in there. Okay, now when I put it in, that metal tab right there is sticking up. So we leave the key in again, and again I have it in locked position in this thing so that it won't rotate too easily, so I don't have to deal with that. We push it in just enough that I can get the knob to go back on, and then get a Band-Aid, and then rotate the thing to the top dead center, and now I got the teeth up. And then, from experience, make absolutely goddamn sure that it's not going to come loose. Because if it comes off in your hand, now you have an unlocked knob, and the whole lock core and that little metal plate on the back that's so pretty, no it's not, fly out behind you, and you get yelled at by your friend George who hired you as the lock picking expert. Now, the reason I'm doing SCHLAGE, if anybody's curious. These are very commonly used in houses. They're okay. Layers, not one lock, two. Okay? If you buy a lock key set, a key set for your front door, and they're both the same lock, no. People who pick a lock don't immediately just pick a lock because they memorize the code. It's not James Bond mode. They don't look at your key and get the numbers. And yes, I'm going to show the key because this is going to be used on some barn someplace. Or not. I might just give it away and someone else will be in trouble. Just kidding. But anyway, the point to this one, and there is one. In the case of the SCHLAGE, you have to bash the lock off on the lower lock mechanism. I'm going to do another video about the deadbolt, which requires you dismantle the whole damn thing to even get the core out. Because the deadbolt is for more serious actions. Now, you saw how small the core is, and that core is literally rotating basically just a little flat piece of metal bar. Twist it to do all the work. And once I rip that off, a set of needle nose pliers or a specialized tool that's just made by just making a groove in it to work with it, sort of a reverse flathead screwdriver, would do the job. So basically, when people want to defeat this, the thing that keeps them from doing it is because this outer shell here, this is the actual outer shell, this is a shroud around it, is just tough enough that it makes it really, really hard to do that. Now I'm going to talk about defeating the whole lock from the outside. The reason I'm talking about this is this is a warning about SCHLAGE. Again, if someone has your key long enough, they can just take the entire key mechanism, the lock mechanism out, and immediately swap it out for another knob really fast. All they have to have is the key for 10 seconds. It's very easily done. I did one floor after another in a building and kept swapping them out. It's so long ago I forgot all the details because I didn't analyze it. I normally take apart locks, pick them for fun, but I didn't really analyze this one. Also, I want to point out a couple of things. Let's do a positive. I've been in a situation where I desperately tried to pick a lock like this. I couldn't do it. I was under stress and I suck. I can't go to the lock-picking conventions. But, this is a big, hairy, fuzzy butt. Now that I know how to do this, I know that, number one, just bashing on that thing won't work because it's literally crushing from a mild steel sheet metal piece, pressing it on what is probably a completely just pot metal but zinc material. That would just cause the lock to just mechanically lock up. So bashing it won't work. Ripping the knob off this way, which actually can work, requires that you use a heavy weight and a mechanical clamp on it. The fire department uses that, and they have the same tool that just goes in and just diddles it to get it open. That way they just break the knob and you just buy another knob. And literally they just unlock the door. They just rip the front of the lock off and then just fiddle with the mechanism inside. Last method. Now this is a method that would be sneaky and would not require a key. The screws you see on this side are top dead center, lined up with the way the key is when you're looking at it in its neutral position where you can get the key out. Someone lining it up could drill from this side and get to the point of the screws that are holding the mechanism together, and then they'd have to use an easy out or some other tool or grind a slot and make the tip of the screw act like a flathead. I've actually done this. And then what they do is they can run a really small screwdriver, it's basically the size of the screw, and back the screw out till it falls down on the outside, on the inside of the building. Yank the knob off because it'll just come right off, along with pulling out half the mechanism probably. And then go back in and put everything back. And what they do is they take this part apart, which you can do, and just replace this faceplate, and you have a drilled lock you didn't know was drilled. The screws look okay because you don't see them because you don't have it taken apart. So on SCHLAGE locks, yeah, it was a challenge for me to pick them because I suck. Number one. Number two, ripping the knob off works. Ask someone in the firefighting group in your area about that. They have a tool for it. It's not unheard of. Next, layers. If there's more than one lock, especially if they don't have the same key fitting them, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more work, but it's not necessarily to be a different key. Next, drilling and redoing this stealthily is noisy as fuck, and you don't have to worry about it. So, to review, it's layers, add lots of layers to security, lock up everything that is in your home someone would want to steal, and then hide it while you're at it. Maybe booby trap it, don't do that. And the next thing is use cameras and video recordings and that sort of thing. And the next thing is know how locks work, and learn to pick them. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.